Good morning and welcome to this live. My name is Anuska Taylor. It's so great to have you here. I don't know what it's like where you are, but it's absolutely freezing here in the UK at the moment. So welcome. And today I wanted to talk about something that's really, really important and really at the heart of why I do what I do, which is expressing your authentic self, expressing your truth. And I think we all struggle with it. And I'm going to talk more about why. I also want to share how it can show up, but it's really starting to get very clear in your own mind and just start to become aware. Where do I hold myself back? Where do I pull back? Where have I made a story up about I can't do that because of X, Y, Z? So it's really starting to become aware, because often we don't realize that we've made up all these stories about things, but it's really limiting us. It's really impacting what we can create in our life. So everyone has something that is, on the edge of like a fear for them. So I'm just going to go through a few and just see if any of these sort of resonate with you. I'm sure at least one of these will resonate with you. So whether we're talking here professionally or personally, expressing your authentic self, expressing your authenticity is absolutely essential. So I am going to talk in a bit about what authenticity really means, because again, I think that word gets thrown around quite a lot. But here's just some ideas of ways that you might be holding yourself back. So maybe you fear asking for a raise. Maybe you haven't had a raise in a long time, but you really fear having that conversation with your boss. Maybe you work for yourself and you fear putting your rates up, your fees up, having that conversation with potential clients or customers about what you charge. I know I've had to do a lot of work myself around that. So I know it can bring up a lot of fear for people around expressing their value and what they do and what they charge. So there's all of that. And that's all about expression at the end of the day. Are you someone maybe who is an author or does something in the world where you need to put yourself out there to promote whatever it is that you do? I've worked with a lot of authors over the last sort of 12 months, actually, who are going on book tours or who are having to go and share their work to a wider community. And I think particularly in that world, often authors are working by themselves, sitting in a room, writing in isolation, and then suddenly they're flung out into the public to talk about their book. So maybe that's you, maybe that's putting you off actually writing a book, or maybe you are going on a book tour and you're dreading it because you've never done anything like that before. So again, is there fear coming up there around expressing your authenticity, around your work? What will people think, etc.? Or it could also be things like keynotes. So maybe you are looking to really establish yourself as an industry expert. And that, unfortunately, really does require you speaking on bigger stages. So you could be talking at your industry conference, for example, or industry events, or maybe you just want to do a TED talk, or there's many other speaking opportunities all the time that we can put ourselves forward for. So those types of things, do you avoid those or do you relish those and put yourself out there for those speaking opportunities? Things like pitching for investment. I mean, I love watching Dragon's Den, and it's so interesting because you see all the fear for people of pitching their services, their products, their business in front of a panel of investors. Now, of course, most people aren't doing it on TV, but still that kind of pitching your business to investors is terrifying. But again, is this holding you back? Are you just avoiding it because you are fearful of expressing yourself? But then there's more, personal things as well with expression. So do you not express how you feel fully to family and friends? Are there things that you know that you need to say, but you avoid, you don't speak up, you don't express how you feel? There's a challenging conversation you know you need to have, but you're just avoiding it. Maybe it's also wanting to leave a relationship, again, really challenging conversation to have with someone. Or conversely, the other side of the coin, that you want to date someone, you want to tell someone you love them. So all of this is all expression. And this is all authentic expression, whether it's quote unquote good or bad. It's still expression. It's you expressing what's on your heart and sharing that with the person concerned. So start to think in your own life, personally or professionally, where do I put the brakes on? Where do I hold myself back from asking for something, from expressing how I feel, for putting myself out there for bigger opportunities in my business? As I said, whether it's, asking for more money, going for a promotion, pitching to investors, putting yourself out there as a keynote, doing bigger speaking engagements, or if it's just personally where you just don't express how you really feel. And they say, and I'm not an expert in this at all, but if you listen to any relationship experts, they say the biggest issue in relationships for almost every couple is communication. It comes down to how we express ourselves. And most of us fear expressing how we really feel, good or bad, quote unquote. So why is this? Why do we have so much fear around expression? Well, I think the challenge is because not speaking up, not expressing ourselves has been so normalized and justified in our society. And actually, when we do see people that express themselves in their truth, in their authenticity, we see what happens to them. They disappear off YouTube, or they lose their job, or they get cancelled, or something happens. So there's this real sort of challenge that we want people to be authentic, but we also don't want people to be authentic. So we get these kind of mixed messages. And so what happens is there are a few people that will express themselves, and then we see the consequences often with those people. But for most of us, what happens is we bite our tongue. We don't express how we really feel. We suppress our feelings. And we tell ourselves it doesn't really matter because they don't know. But actually, we're really hurting ourselves. And I'm going to talk about this in a second, how this kind of really, really impacts you on such a profound level. The other thing, and I can probably see myself in all of these, to be honest, in various aspects of my life. And as I said, because of the work that I do, particularly now with the Jungian side of this, of my work, I've had to really, really do a lot of deep shadow work myself around expression and around all of this authentic connection. But I know that this next one was something I really struggled with when I was a lot younger, which is we don't communicate directly what we need. So we're kind of vague. We sort of say it, and we sort of hope that the person will assume that they know, so we don't actually have to explicitly say it. So it's like, well, this person's, they're my parents, they're my partner, they're my best friend. They know that this is what I feel and this is what I want. So we don't say it. But really, it's because we fear saying it. So we just dance around the subject. We sort of say it, but we don't really say it directly. That was very much me when I was younger, certainly. Another one is we don't ask for what we need at all. And then we get really, really resentful of the person. We don't say, I need help. Can you help me with X, Y, Z? And then we get angry that the person's not helping us. Again, there's all of this fear of expression, being authentic. And then finally, and I see this one in myself too, my younger self particularly, is we say how we feel, and then we get a pushback. We get a negative result, quote unquote. So the person gets angry, the person is critical, the person shames us, whatever. And then we start to backtrack. And we don't own our feelings because there's a fear now in owning this. It's like, oh no, I didn't really mean it. Well, I sort of did, but I didn't. And then we try and sort of brush over it and pretend, like minimize it. And we don't own those feelings. So again, this is all part of that. I cannot fully express how I feel because there are negative consequences. Something bad is going to happen if I say how I really feel. And the crazy thing is we all feel like this, and yet we all do it. So I think we all do it actually to a greater or lesser extent, and we all have our ways of avoiding expression, avoiding how we really feel, avoiding expressing our truth. But the conditioning, I think, is so strong. And And you can see why. I mean, I remember as a child in the playground, it was very much taught you're not allowed to upset other children. Um, and so if you did upset them, then you got like hauled in front of the class. And I mean, this happened to me. This happened to me once, and it certainly wasn't intentional by any stretch of the imagination, but it's still etched on my mind that this is what happens if you express yourself, because you get like shamed in front of the whole class. So I'm sure that you have your own experiences of that, where you have expressed yourself, it's gone really badly, and you're like, I'm never doing that again. Now I'm just going to either push it away, or I'm going to dance around it a little bit and be a bit vague and hope the person gets the message. So what is authenticity then? And again, as I said, this is a buzzword. Everyone sort of seems to use it in the personal development world. And actually, I would argue even in the corporate world, authenticity is often one of the values of companies. But what does it really mean? And I sometimes feel like it's not really used in its truest sense. So for me, from a Jungian perspective, at least, this is bringing your whole self to the table. This is all aspects of yourself, the parts of yourself that you like and your persona, the parts that you think, yes, this is acceptable. I'm a kind, loving, fun, generous person. I'm bringing that to the table because that will make me popular. But it's also allowing people to see the parts of you that you don't necessarily like, that you reject and you judge in yourself. So maybe you get overly emotional, maybe you're very, very sensitive, and you get, touchy very easily and very prickly very easily. It could be anything, but it's really bringing all of yourself to the table. Maybe you're someone that gets jealous very easily. It's just really about owning it. Because actually the irony is, when we own these parts of ourselves, we can kind of move through them. It's the resistance that keeps them stuck. We resist, I'm not a jealous person, but then we feel jealous, or I'm not a angry person, but then we feel angry, and we kind of make it wrong, but they're all equal. We need all emotions. So it's really bringing all of yourself to the table. And importantly, you're not afraid to be perceived in a particular way. You're not afraid to create waves. You're not afraid to upset people. You're not afraid to be rejected. You're not afraid to disappoint people. I just want to say, because I know what you're thinking, maybe some of you, maybe not. You're not aiming to do this. You're not thinking, now, okay, fine, Anuska said I need to do this, so now I'm just going to go and really piss everyone off that I speak to. This is not going the other way. And this is what we often see in our society. I think it's kind of what I would call persona swapping. So we spent our whole lives being kind and sweet natured, and then we keep getting walked over, and we keep having people messing us about, and we're like, right, enough's enough. Now I'm going to just do the complete opposite, and I'm going to be a complete bitch. Using that very, oh, sorry, my cat's decided to join with her tail. Of course, if anyone's got any pets, I'm sure that you have. As soon as I'm on Zoom, she wakes up. It's like she knows. And now I've lost my train of thought. But it's just so interesting. I've completely forgotten what I was talking about, because Luna's just being a little pest behind. So, oh yes, I was talking about we're not aiming for it. So we're not trying to upset people. We're not deliberately thinking, right, I'm just going to now become really nasty and really bitchy because I've spent my whole life being really lovely and really kind. And that's not got me anywhere. And that's kind of what often we see on social media. And all you're doing is you're persona swapping. You haven't really integrated yourself. You're still disconnected from yourself. And the true journey, which is this which for me is authenticity, it's integration of both. You're not afraid to be perceived as mean. You're not afraid to be kind. You're not afraid to be generous and open-hearted. You're not afraid if people think that you're nasty, because what it really comes down to is the intention behind it. That's the only thing that matters, your intention. Because we know when we're, particularly around family, when we get triggered by family or romantic partners, we say things that we know are going to trigger them and annoy them and upset them to get a reaction, because we're angry, they're angry. So we know when we're doing it from that place of ego, that place of, not being particularly kind with it. But what I'm talking about here is not that. I'm talking about consciously, with intention, expressing your true self. Now, that may accidentally or, might ruffle some feathers. That might upset people. But that isn't your responsibility. Your responsibility is your intention. You express from your heart, even if you don't think everyone's going to like it, because that is your truth. And that is where you're going to have the most power. Because when we are not being truthful, it comes out in the voice. The voice doesn't lie. Your voice will not come out fully. You hear it, you can hear it in voices. When you really own from your heart what you really feel and think, it's reflected in your voice. So this is the nature of shadow work. And this is why people don't really want to do it in the most part, because it's very confronting. It's confronting those parts of yourself that you've probably spent maybe decades running away from. And really what we're running away from is ultimately, because the ego is all set up for survival and fitting in, which is why we don't do this in the first place, speak up. We really fear being rejected, being abandoned, and being unloved. That is our deepest fear for all of us, because actually from our ancestors' perspective, if we were rejected, we would probably die. And even as babies, we can't survive without our caregivers. So often, we fear the reaction from people. We say how we feel and they get angry, they criticize us, they rant and rave and shout. Or maybe they don't. Maybe it's silent. Maybe it's silent and deadly. Maybe it's they don't say anything, but they just never speak to us ever again. They never pick the phone up. So it's more passive aggressive. But either way, we feel rejected by them. We feel abandoned, unloved, not important in their life anymore, whether there's someone that shouts and screams or whether there's someone that just silently disappears. But either way, we feel rejected. So this is why, we have to do this inner work. And the inner work is really about really becoming whole, because actually no one can reject you without your permission. So if you perceive you're being rejected, it's because you're rejecting yourself. And I know that's very hard to accept, because we really see it, because we really believe we are separate. But no one can do anything to you that you don't already feel. So if you perceive people are rejecting you, there's a part of you that's rejecting you. So that's when it all comes back to self. And so the more whole you feel, the more accepting of your true self, your full self, warts and all, the good, the bad, and the ugly, the less you're going to be afraid of being rejected, because you really start to get that no one can reject me, no one can criticize me, no one can abandon me without me agreeing with them, because the world is just a mirror. So let me give you an example of what this might look like. And I'm going to show you a little way that you can start to work with this, but you can use whatever example you want. So think about something in your life where you are, maybe you've only started to think about it now, but you feel you put the brakes on with expression. So I'm going to use a professional example here of asking for a pay rise or asking for higher fees if you run your own business. I think this affects pretty much everyone. Certainly at some stage you're going to be in the working world, even if you stay at home and raise your children now, at some point you probably were in the working world. So I think this impacts everyone. So this brings up a lot of stuff for people, asking for pay rises, asking for more money. As I said, I've had to do a lot of work around this myself, around the shadow of this. And so a lot of the time it's really a worthiness thing. Do I really feel valuable enough and worthy enough to ask for more money, to charge higher fees? So it comes down to essentially, am I good enough? Now, again, from the higher perspective, from the true self, of course you're good enough. The ego is the only part of you that thinks you may or may not be good enough, but we'll park that for the moment. So the first thing you want to do when you are aware of, okay, this is the thing, personally or professionally, where I know I hold myself back. So we're using this as an example. So first of all, become aware of what the story is around that. There's going to be a story. And the thing is, we don't think, okay, I'm going to make a story up about this now. It happens automatically at lightning speed, based on our conditioning, based on our upbringing, societal conditioning, etc. So using the example of pay rise and higher fees, so earning more money, maybe it's the belief that no one's got any money. We're going through a difficult financial time at the moment. No one, it's mean of me to ask people for more money. I'm not really qualified enough. There's people who are better qualified than me who are charging less. That's certainly something I've, had to explore myself. So all of that. So what is the story? So allow yourself to kind of free write this or meditate on this. Like, what's the story that comes up? Now, the story is protecting you from an emotion. It's the emotion you don't want to feel. So we get wrapped up in the story. And, and that's what, if you listen to anyone talk about their problems, it's all in the story. It's not about feeling, because the ego knows as soon as you feel, as soon as you really feel, then you can start to transition, then you can start to transcend this. But when you get stuck in the story, you're going to be stuck there forever. And which is why people can get stuck for decades, because they just keep embellishing the story and going on and on about all these people that have done them wrong, or this happened, or this happened, or this happened. But what is the emotion underneath the story? So in the case of this, I would suggest it's probably avoiding feeling shame. Because if you think about it, when you have a story around, no one's going to pay me more money, no one's got any money, what you're really fearing is people pushing back, people challenging your value, challenging your worthiness. Who do you think you are? I can get the same service down the road with Joe Blogs for half the price. Or if you're at work and you've asked for a promotion, well, Anuska, the person that you're working with, I mean, they don't earn anything like what you're already earning. So there's a lot of that kind of pushback. And that's what we really fear. We fear having our worthiness challenged. We fear having the part of ourselves kind of criticized. And again, coming back to what I was saying before, no one can judge anything that we don't already judge in ourselves. Otherwise, it just won't have an impact on us. So really, we are, in this scenario, in this example, we are running away from shame. We are running away from that feeling of not feeling good enough. There's something inherently wrong or bad, which is why I can't ask for more money. I'm not good enough. I'm not educated enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm too this, I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too this, I'm too that, whatever it is for you. So we're running away from shame. So we have to go towards shame and or whatever the emotion is. And what we tend to do is, as I say, get stuck in the story and run away, suppress it. And all it does when you suppress your emotion, you're giving it more and more psychological energy, and it doesn't go anywhere. It will just make you sick, physically sick, mentally sick. It's not going anywhere. So let's now allow ourselves to feel that. So this is the little process then. So once you've established what the emotion is underneath the story that you're really running away from, allow yourself to maybe shut your eyes, just come into this sort of calm, relaxed contemplation. Allow your shoulders to drop into your body, drop into your belly. If you're seated, that's great. Just make sure your feet are flat on the floor. Just allow yourself to feel into your body. And I think shutting your eyes is really useful because it helps us to feel into our body more. And I just want you to start to feel in your body what shame or whatever the emotion was feels like, because it's going to have a feeling that normally you run away from because you're so wrapped up in the story of what's going on. So feel it in your body. Feel, what does this feel like? Is it a heaviness in the chest? Is it a tightness in the throat? Is it a tightness in the stomach? What is it for you? And there's no right or wrong. It's whatever it is for you. It could be anything. So feel that in your body, first of all, and breathe into it. It's really important. It's like the opposite to what we normally want to do. And see if you can drop the story. Just focus on the feelings in your body and breathe into them. Now, breathe into this emotion until you feel it starts to sort of dissipate a little bit, like the intensity. Now, it might feel worse initially because you're bringing attention to it. So if your heart's going, for example, maybe you feel like your heart rate increases first because you've brought attention to it. But if you sit there long enough, and they say it takes about 90 seconds for an emotion to kind of move, if you sit there for at least 90 seconds to 2 minutes, you will notice it starts to kind of subside. So just sit in that quiet contemplation and allow that emotion just to kind of dissipate. Again, try and drop the story if you can. And I know it's hard because we're all conditioned to focus on the story. And then I want you to feel your heart. Again, we don't do this. So as the emotion is kind of dissipating, I want you to maybe put your hand on your heart and just feel your heart, which sounds corny, but your heart is incredibly intelligent. There's a lot of science to back this up now. There is so much wisdom in our heart that we, in our modern society, tend to ignore. So now you want to connect to your heart and maybe put your hand on your heart, feel your heart beating. And from that place, start to ask yourself questions about whatever it is that you brought up. So asking for a pay rise, see what wisdom comes up for you. See what your heart says. Is this the right thing? Should I be asking for more money? What should I be doing? And notice, do you feel an expansion when you think about earning more money? And it might be a split second expansion, but do you feel that opening? Or do you feel a contraction? And if this, whatever this thing is that you're really wanting to go towards, is sort of for your highest growth, you will feel that expansion. Because if you think about anything in your life that really fully brings you joy, there will be a moment of expansion, even if you can't stay there. You know, for me, it's music. When I sing, I feel my heart open. Like literally, I feel my heart open. So allow your heart to open and start to kind of hear the wisdom that is coming through. But you've got to be still and you've got to be silent to hear it. And just ask from that place, like, what's the next move for me? Where should I be going? Should I be going for this promotion? Or maybe the wisdom of your heart's got something better, like, no, this isn't the right company for you. You need to move. Or actually, you need to be doubling your rates, not just putting them up by £5. You need to be like going for something even bigger. So start to listen to the wisdom of your heart. And it's never going to pull you back. It's never going to tell you that things are bad and this is not the right thing. It will guide you towards something different, a new path, a new direction. So it's the wisdom of the heart that we want to connect to. And then you can start to visualize this new thing that you're trying to create, whether it's in your business, whether it's at work, whether it's a career move, whether it's a business move. Really then start to visualize this new thing that you're trying to create and really feel it and see it. Now, the other part of this, so that's more of a kind of meditation sort of process or contemplation process you can go through. But the other part of this is really to drop the judgment around the thing that you fear. Because whatever you fear, so in this case, we're talking about asking for more money, asking for a pay rise, asking clients to pay you higher fees. On some level, you have a judgment around that, which your ego might resist that. Now, we judge either by we put people on a pedestal and we say, well, that person could ask for a pay rise because they're so much more qualified and they're so much better than me and there's so much this and that and the other. So we put people on a pedestal, or we say people are less than us. And so we judge people who do ask for pay rises, who do put their rates up. Again, you've got to be very, very aware of this because your ego will not want you to go there. So start to pay attention when you see people talking about what they're earning or the fact they've asked for a raise or these are the fees they're charging. What comes up in your body? Do you silently criticize them and think, who does she think she is? Who do they think they are? You know, I don't even charge that and I'm way more qualified than them. And again, I mean, I've had to go through all of this myself in the voice world, you know, for years. So I've done a lot of work around this myself. And I had to become really honest about those thoughts that were coming up for me. But for me, it was more putting people on a pedestal than the other way around. But I was still judging myself as less than. So where are you? Do you put people on a pedestal and say they're better than me? Or do you make people wrong for asking for more money, for charging high fees, etc.? So whatever side of the coin you're on, if you're judging people, you're never going to allow yourself to have it. You're never going to step into it. And then you're going to wonder why you have so much fear around it because you've made it so wrong. So the first stage is really to drop. Well, I say the first stage. This is the other part of it. Drop the judgment. Drop the judgment of people that you criticize or people that you idolize. Drop the judgment and start to see them with compassion. Start to see them as, wow, well, if they can do it, I can do it. Or, yeah, I know they might have a couple of years more experience than me, but they're not me. And I bring a different skill set to the table. So this is where you've got to start to really open it up. So I will put these little points below this video about the little stage, and I might actually timestamp it so you don't have to watch the whole thing again. But I really challenge you to start to look at, where do I hold myself back in expression? And it's going to vary from person to person, but I guarantee every single person that watches this video is holding themselves back in some way. But you might have made up such a great story about it that you just think you don't need to do anything about it anymore. Now, on this topic, because this is very much an integral part of you accessing your true voice, your true potential, your fullest, most powerful, most expressive voice. Because if you've got any of this fear going on, your voice is never going to function fully. You are always going to be working against yourself with any exercises that you do. I can, Luna's back again. I can give you all the greatest exercises in the world and tell you all about the physiology of your voice. But if unconsciously there's this real fear of, oh, what will people think of me if I ask for this? When you come to ask for it, the voice is going to shut down in some way. So she's so distracting. So a couple of things. First of all, I actually launched a brand new course yesterday on Udemy called Free Your Mind, Free Your Voice. And I don't, just to be full disclosure here, so I set a price with Udemy, but then they sort of sell it for whatever they sell it for. So I don't know what it's going for today, but yesterday it was on sale for $14.99 because it was day one. So I don't know what they're selling it for today. I know what the price was I set it for, but it does fluctuate, is my point. But I will put the link below. The maximum it would be is $54.99, which is what I set it as. But you might get it cheaper depending on the day that you happen to go on the page. So this is really, I wanted to bring this work for people to start to open their mind to how their mind is driving their voice. And voice exercises alone are not going to create lasting change because you're still at war within yourself. You're still working against yourself. So there's that. So the Udemy course is going through this so you can really start to see how your persona shadow is sort of working and how it's really limiting your voice, and then how you can start to step into real expression, real authenticity when you speak. If you want to go deeper and you want someone that can really help you fast track your results, private coaching is really the best way. What you're going to find when you start doing this work, and I talk about this in the course, is your ego has lots of tricks around how to hold you back. In all of us, we all have the same tricks. We have some that are our preferred tricks, but we all have them. We all use similar tools in our ego toolkit. So I talk about some of the main ways the ego will hold you back. And one of them is spinning the story we get stuck in. This person did this to me, this happened to me. And this is why we get stuck in stuff for decades, because we never get out of the story because we're unwilling to feel the emotion. So this is why it's so hard to do by yourself. And it's not that you won't get value from the course. You 100% will get value from that course, but you are still trying to do it within your own mind, with your own thoughts, with your own perceptions and your own conditioning. So if you really want to access your true voice, your true potential, and really step into real freedom, real confidence, not ego confidence, ego freedom, which is still trying to manipulate, still trying to get people to do something, still avoiding things. When you really step into that freedom, then you show up in a completely different way, and you are not afraid to be perceived anymore in a particular way. And the irony is, actually, the more authentic we really are and the more okay we are with all parts of ourselves, actually, the more we are ironically approved of, and we actually get more validation in the world, because we love it when people just show up as who they are, even if we don't really want to. So private coaching, you can book a 30-minute voice discovery strategy call. Now that is £50, which is fully refundable should you continue working with me. If you don't, that's absolutely fine. There is no pressure. But either way, I will help you to understand your voice, give you some insight and awareness of what's going on with your voice and why you might be experiencing the problems. This isn't a coaching session, though. I just want to make that really clear, which is why if you look at the different costs, the 1 hour coaching session is £250. This is 50 because it's more of an insight call. If you want a full coaching session and you want to really have some tools for your voice and me to go a little bit deeper with you, book the 1 hour coaching session, which is called Reclaim Your Voice. But if you're serious about creating lasting change, it's going to take more than one session anyway. Normally, I work with people across 2 months intensively, and then you have an additional 6 months support where you can still check in with me and have a couple of extra sessions. So book a session. If this resonates, I would love to help you because I'm so passionate about this and I know how much this work has transformed my own life. And it really is the path to true freedom in every area of your life and true confidence. So thank you so much. I will put all the links below and I will make a little list of what I spoke about today. I hope this has been really useful and I look forward to seeing you on my next video.